games. Oh, we're playing games. When I say we, I'm talking about the nation of Israel, not you guys. You guys have fallen in line, being compliant. Yared, I now assign you to be the compliance officer. Games. Oh, we're playing.
With pleasure.
Here we go. Let's get in here tonight and get started. Share my screen. And let's get into it right here. Okay, so earlier this week, we had a good teaching from the creator of the universe. He wants us to know that we need to work on our mindset. He wants us to understand that we need to elevate. You know, there's the task that's in front of us. You know, not only that test, but there's a task that you and I have to do. And we're going to have to adapt and adopt what he says to our lives and make it applicable. But we have to understand what the Torah is talking about, because often we read the Torah and be like, well, what does that got to do with me? I don't have an ox. I don't have a sheep. I don't have a donkey. You know, I'm not going to war. I don't find, I didn't find any woman, so forth. So we have, some things that this is why people are not interested. I believe the Most High had designed it and wrote it this way because it was applicable then and it's applicable now. For us, if you have the mindset, right, of turning back to Yah, you'll think about things in this term. It's like it's written so you and I can think. Because before it was, natural to our ancestors. They were in it. They were about to go into the land. They were about to get their inheritance. They were excited. They just got released from slavery. Everything's popping, but everybody's not, they don't have the right mindset. They're still rebellious. They still have gone against the creator. So we're going to start in verse number 10. It talks about when you go out. That is the word called yatsa. Okay. When you go out, and that, I said, is connected to Yah's compassion, because what we're going to see, often we think compassion is just this love and, this warmth and these hugs and so forth and so on. But you're going to see Yah and how he feels about certain groups of people. And he wants us to know how he feels about them. Okay. So this is the goal. He says, when you go out, and that's called yatsa, Y-A, and sometimes they have a S-A, like yatsa. It's really a zadi. It's really a yod. And see if I can get my writing together. A yod and a zadi and a, and an aleph. Okay. So those are the three words. And what it means is to go out. That's what yatsa means. Okay. And we're going to learn a lot more about this on Shabbat. So when he says, when you go out to war, okay, when you go out to battle against your enemies, Yahweh, your Elohim, hands them over to you and you take prisoners. Okay. These captives right here, these prisoners, is the same word that we learned earlier this week about shuv. Okay. That's the word that's being used because they're being taken away from their land and they're being brought into someone else's land. Okay. And when you see among your prisoners, your captives, a woman, okay, who looks good to you, this is really not a real clear presentation of what it's talking about, because what it really says is what her shape looks like to you. What's her shape? It's not just what she looks like. It's the shape of her body. That's what he's attracted to. In her face, of course, but overall, it talks about her, not her face. It talks about her body. This is what it talks about. So that's what gets you, right? It's what the body looks like. And okay, so he's attracted to the body. He likes the way she's shaped. And he says, you want her as your wife. You're to bring her to this captive, this prisoner woman home to your house, where she will shave her head and cut her fingernails off. Okay. So you're going to strip her, like we talked about earlier this week, about stripping you down to bare bone to get rid of your, it's a form of actual mourning too, and grief, right? People usually shave their heads, they're grieving. So I want you to allow her to go through the process of grieving, and her grieving period, we're going to find out it's going to be 30 days. And so I want you to remove her her captive clothing from her. I need you to take all that off of her. Okay. And then she's not going to sit there naked, but you're going to put some clothing on her, but she's going to take off those prison clothes, those captive clothes. and she will stay in your house in mourning for her father and her mother for a full month. Now, the context here is when they go all to war. Okay. Somebody tell me, what did Yah command the children of Israel to offer to the people before they go to war?
Shalom.
Shalom. They refuse, they reject the offer. They get what?
Get the sword.
You get the sword, and you're going to kill all the males. Okay. You're going to kill all the males, and some females are getting killed because they're trying to save their husbands. So this woman is not just grieving because it was a happy go away, like, bye, mom and dad, I'm being taken prisoner. No, her father was killed, and more than likely her mother. You understand? So there was a great amount of depth of grief, and there's a lot of sorrow that's attached to this. Okay. So you and I would minimize and say, oh, yeah, I just killed all these people, so he's happy. No, that remember, he says, I offer peace, and if they don't take it, I'm killing everybody, right? Just about, right? So, right, this in particular woman is going through a severe amount of grief, and Yah cares about the captive. He does. He cares about the prisoner. He sure does. Listen what he says. So after you do this and you take her clothes off and she stays in your house and you give her time to grieve, she's going to go 30 days, just like you would for your mother and your father, or for your family member. When your parent dies, you give them a 30-day, I'm grieving for 30 days. That's what we've done. Moshe died, it was 30 days. Aharon, 30 days. Miriam, 30 days. Everybody gets 30 days. So this is something Yah's letting us know over and over again, that a grieving period is a time of 30 days. It's a 1 full month cycle of the moon. So one cycle of the moon, boom, from one point to the next. Okay. And at that cycle, when that cycle is completed, then you are going to be renewed. That means now it's time for us to what? Move on. Okay. Nothing stays the same. It's time to move on. So Yah's letting us know, hey, there's a time, right? So you're going to give. And so if that's the same 30 days is given to us as a people, he's passing that on to the prisoner. And he's doing this as a favor to the Israelite male who decided he wanted to take this woman because he liked the way she looked. Okay. So now that she's bald headed and she looks like a man, she really who she is. She's a woman, a man with a womb. He can really see her for who she really looks like. She might look like her father. Who knows? Okay. But he is able to really get down to who she really is. Okay. So now we're going past the looks, right? Because before she had hair, now she doesn't. In the event that you will lose, okay. So then he says he'll have sexual, no, let me forget that. He will go in and he will have sexual relations. Okay. Something we all need to know, and those who are listening live by stream, that sex or relations is marriage. Sexual relations is marriage. Once you go into a woman, it is your wife. Once a man goes into your body, it is your husband. That's Yahweh's perspective. That's not the state of California or Texas or any other place. The way that he sees it is the moment that you enter that body, that's the moment that you've committed to a covenant. It's marriage. Okay. So sex is marriage. I said it to my nephew because he was, he just turned to the Torah, by the way. And he said, I want to accept my heritage. I said, great. So we started talking, and I was mentioning the Torah portion, and my son said, yeah, sexual activity is marriage. And he had this look on his face like, what? It was like, yeah. And he's in his 20s. It was like, yeah, every woman that you've ever been with, that's your wife. And it blew him away, right? But that's the truth. That is the truth of the matter. So he has to be responsible, and he will be held accountable for all the actions and all the deeds and all the marriages you have, okay? So you have to bear the consequences of those things. Even though you've decided to turn and come back, there are consequences, okay? So Yah says that you can lose interest in her. You are to let her go wherever she wishes, but you may not sell her for money. Why? Why can't you sell her for money? And why can't you treat her as a slave?
Because she's been defiled.
She's been defiled. She's been humiliated. She's been brought low. You have overpowered her. You have overcome her. Okay. And now that you've overcome her, Yah is saying that I don't want you to continue to overcome her if you don't decide that you have any interest in her. So you didn't get it for any money. So you don't get to sell her for any money. You don't get to take advantage of this. You don't get to take advantage of her. And when it says that you have to let her go, it means that the term and the word that's being used there is to bind, like with a sheaf, like a sheaves of grain. So during the harvest season, when they go and they cut the grain, once they cut it, they wrap these ties around it to hold it in place and bind it where it can't move. So he's saying that I don't want you to bind her. So now she's not your slave. You went from being your wife, and now you want her to be your slave. That's not going to work. You got to let her go. Now, does the slave know this? No, she doesn't know this. She doesn't know anything about our customs. She knows nothing about Israel's culture, nothing. You see? But I guarantee if he lost interest in her and he sets her free, she'll know, oh, wait a minute. He let me go. Oh, why did he let me go? And then she'll find out when she goes somewhere else that it's because we're commanded to let you go. And I'm pretty sure they have a conversation. If this in particular person who's lost interest in her would say to her, hey, it's just not working out. You can go. And you go say, well, why are you letting me go? Because I'm pretty sure that is. And you'd be like, I just don't have any interest in you. And according to what we're supposed to do, according to our Elohim, I can't hold you and I can't bind you. I can't hold you and bind you as a slave. Okay. By the way, your wife is not your slave. Okay. So here's something Yah also wants to tell us about a wife. A wife is not a slave. She's not supposed to be treated as a slave. You don't treat your wife like a slave. Even though you are her master, you are her Lord, you are her counselor, you are her shield, you are all those things to her. But she's not our slave, you see. So we don't supposed to treat our wives like our slaves. That's something else that Yahweh wants to let us know, okay? Because you have authority. And he's going to let us know about the individuals that you have, that you just don't take any other interest, the wives that you already have. Here's some other wives here. There's two of them. Yah tells us that, hey, you got two wives, you hate one and you love the other. So now you stay on this wife thing. So it's possible that a man can love one and hate somebody else, right? So he didn't get them both at the same time. He got one and got the other. You understand? So at one point, he may have loved the first one. And then the first one made him so upset, and he's so, distraught about the way she treats him, and he lost interest in her, and he's not happy with her, but for whatever reason, he can't get rid of her. And there's reasons why in the Torah that he literally not unloves her, he literally hates her, according to the Torah. Saneh, he puts distance. I don't have anything to really do with you, except for, sexual intercourse, food, and clothing and shelter. That's all I give you. Other than that, I have no interest to talk to you, right? So you can see, according so far, the two examples that we have, the Yah is saying that you can turn to the way you think. Your thinking is very important. And because you're human and you change your mind and you lose interest very soon and very easily, I want you to know the rules, okay, which are called mishpat. Okay, they're mishpatim or mishpat, which are rulings, which are, you would know in English as your judgments. So Yah's judgments go for prisoners too, for your conduct on how to act, okay? Because I know that you're going to change your mind. I also know that you will hate your wife. I know that's possible. And also know that you'll love another one, but also know how you get down. If you're the kind of human being and the kind of person that I know that I got to instruct you, because the one that you love is the one that you would give the rights of the firstborn to her son and not the one who's unloved. Okay. And it says that in the firstborn is his right. And that right there in Hebrew is mishpatim. That's the judgment. That is the judgment that Yahweh has given. So the judgments of Yah didn't stop in chapter number 20 and 19 and 18. His judgments are going all the way through this in particular Torah portion. I want you to know when you go out to war, this and this and that. When you find somebody, this is going to happen. All right. So you can see there that Yah knows you're going to change your mind. Here's another thing. It's about a mindset. When Yah was working with me this week, he also had instructed me to say, when you read the Torah, I need you to look for the things that are dysfunctional, because you talked about what's evil. And you've explained to the class that evil is misery and that which is bad and that which is dysfunctional. So what I want you to understand is when you read the Torah, you got to be looking for the dysfunction. of what Yah has a problem with. The problem that he has here in verse number 18 is about a young man who still lives under the care of his parents. Okay, and this young man has decided to be stubborn and rebellious, and in its Hebrew written form, it is a participle, meaning that is continuing. It's an ing. Okay, it's an ing. You know, he's called a sobe, S-O-B-E. Okay, sobe, like the drink sobe. He's drinking all the time, and he's also a more. Okay, more is not only for the more for a teacher, but a more means somebody who's continuing to rebel. Okay, so this is the ing. Someone who's decided that they don't want to change their ways. It's just a continuation of it. And so the mother and the father, okay, they don't do what he doesn't do what they say, and he refused the discipline from them trying to turn his head. And they've been trying to do this for a long time, but he still refuses to pay attention to them. As a result of this rebellion, the father and the mother are going to grab hold of him like he's a prisoner, the same word for taking some captive, to take hold of him, and they're going to bring him out. That's that word yatsa. Okay, he's going to yatsa, to bring out. Okay, the leaders of the town, okay, which we talked about last week about the Sha'al-Reka, and the leaders and the elders of the town, the leaders of the Zaken. So there's a group of individuals that have been picked, and you're supposed to bring your son to this place at the gates of that place, of that city, no other city. So if you have a problem in Katy, Texas, you can't bring them over to Richmond. You're here in California, you can't take them to Texas or New Jersey. You got to handle it right where you're at. Just like the laws that they have today in the land that you and I have, which they adopted, is if you commit a crime in a certain city or a different state, you have to be tried in that state according to their laws, okay? In Yahweh's community, his laws are all the same. So, but you still have to bring them back to the place in which the crime has taken place. So this individual is not Shema. They're not listening. Okay, really is really called Shemoah. And that again is a participle. Okay, a participle is an ing. It's a present tense continuing. Okay, so he's not listening. He's not listening to them, to his father and his mother. They don't need any additional witnesses. They bring them out there and they tell him what it is. And they're going to say to the leaders of the town, this is our son who is continuing his stubbornness and his rebelliousness, and he doesn't pay attention to us, and he lives wildly, and he gets drunk. Then all the men of his town are to stone him to death. Okay, this is what Yahweh says according to his perspective. He says, in this way, you will put it into such wickedness among you. I told you earlier this week about Makir Baka. Makir Baka means in the midst of you. So what Yah's concern is like, I know that people are going to have the wrong attitude, and there are going to be some people. It's not if, again, this is wrong. It's if, it's no, it's when. It's always when. This is going to happen. So Yah's letting them know this is going to happen, and this is the way that I want you to handle it. I want you to take him out, and I want you to have him stoned to death. Okay? Where? At the city gates. All right? So the elders are going to do that. The parents are handing over, not they're going to kill them himself, but they're going to bring him to the highest authority that they have right there at that place. To say the men or the elders, they've been in the community a long time. They've been managing the way that people live their lives and saying, look, we are not going to have this nonsense. Okay. Right now, we don't have that. People are doing whatever they feel like doing. Okay. But for us, you and I know when we get back to the land, okay, there will be elders. There's going to be elders. You can look at Zechariah chapter number 8. There's going to be people with canes. You know, I might be one of them. And if you act a fool, I'm going to put you to death. That's just what Yah says. Because we have to get rid of the wickedness that's in the community. Okay. So Yah's letting us know how he feels about this drunkenness. Okay. The continual drinking, because it inebriates you and makes you lose your mind. It's really foolishness. Some of the words that are being used in there are talking about he's being foolish. Okay. And so alcohol can make a person foolish. And so things that are not done in moderation, you can see that this young man doesn't have any restraint. And so as a result of his lack of restraint and his lack of obedience and listening, okay, because his mind's full of alcohol, he can't think or listen or hear or respond. He has to be put down. Just like an ox that's not doing what they're supposed to do. Okay. So he says, then once you get rid of this wickedness, all Yisrael will hear about it and be afraid. So every time somebody was put to death and stoned to death, everybody was to find out about, they were to know, such and such got killed today. You got stoned to death. Well, why? Why did he get stoned to death? He got stoned to death because he was just an alcoholic. He just couldn't do what he says. That's to send a message to all the other young people. Okay. And that's what we need. We need this as the people. This is what Yah says. Okay. This is his words. Here's something. Here's a big thing in 21. It says that someone committed a capital crime. Okay. And this crime, it says is worthy of death. It's the mishpatim. Doesn't say it right here, but it's a mishpatim in Hebrew. It's a judgment call, which is a capital crime. It's worthy of death. He's to be put to death. Then, okay, you're going to hang him on a tree. So they put him to death first, and then they hang him. Okay. Not like your Christian narrative where they hung him and nailed him to the cross and let him die. And he's excruciating, crying and screaming. And, people are spitting on him and throwing rocks, all that kind of stuff. No, you were killed first, and then Yah hung you. Okay. There's another occasion where Yah hung the leaders of Israel. This is not the first time. And the reason why he's hanging you is simply because you are cursed to Yah. Yah has decided that you're worthless to him. Not this one, I'm going to spit on you. That one's different. This is what the Kualala. The Kualala is the one that he says you're worthless. So I'm going to show you how worthless you are because you are worthless to this community. Therefore, I need to show the community that I'm not playing. So I'll use you as a banner. I'll use you as that. Yah's into advertisement. I'm going to advertise and hang you up, and I'm going to hang you up until the sun goes down. Once the sun goes down, before the sun goes down, I got to take you down. That way we won't defile the land. So hanging someone is a defilement of land if their body is left up. So he says, get rid of that, take them down, and I need you to bury them. Don't put them in a tomb. I need you to bury them in the ground. All right. Chapter number 22 says this. Very interesting. I know I'm moving quickly, but we need to because we have so much to talk about. 22 says this. You're not to watch your brother's ox, his sheep straying, right? And behave as if you hadn't seen him. You must bring them back to your brother. Okay, so it goes on to talk about this brother, right? It's called Akika, which I'm your brother. All right, I don't have an ox and I don't have a sheep, but he says this. He says, he uses a word in there called olam. Okay, this Hebrew word, olam, I'll write it out right quick so you can see it. Olam, okay, olam. Does anyone know what olam means? Just off the top, you've heard it before, olam, ha-olam, okay? What does olam mean?
Is it a type of offering?
That's close, it's ola. Ola is an offering, so olam means forever, okay? That's what it means. It means a certain space and time, okay? And so this time, because olam means time. And so, and they use it for the word forever, okay? But what it is, it's a time in the distant past or distant future. That's what it is. It's distant in the past or distant in the future. So when I looked this up and I was reading it in Hebrew and I was like, okay, so what do you mean, Yah? Like if you see this and you're using this word olam in a distant past or the distant future, are you saying that you've seen it in the past or they're going to see it in the future? No, he's not saying that. What the part that he's telling them is presently, because those are the three tenses. The three tenses that you have is past, present, and future. So what Yah is saying is, I need you to hear what I'm saying. Okay. The Creator has told us this word for a reason. Okay. I know you read your Torah portion, so I don't have to read it all, but I want to bring out these points. The reason why he uses this word olam, okay, is simply because what he's saying is, I need you to be in the present, not in the past, and not in the future. Meaning that if you got to deal with something, I don't need you to put it off and say, I'll get to it. And then you never do, which leaves it in the past. And then if you say, well, I don't want to, I'll help him later. Again, that can happen in the future. Yeah, I'm saying that you can't live in the past and you can't live in the future. You got to live in the present. So whatever need that you and I see our brother in, right? And according to what he says, according to the Torah, you have to be actively available to him at that moment. You and I don't see sheep and oxen and all that kind of stuff, but there's other areas. It's the mindset that goes along with this. So you and I can't use and say, well, I don't see a sheep and I don't see an ox, and there's no problem with that. Yah's saying that if there's an immediate need, I need for you to respond right now. Don't delay. Don't put it off. Okay. Because it might end up going in the past and you get a chance to do it. And if it's in the future, you may not have to do that because you don't know the future and you don't have the opportunity. So if opportunity is in front of you, you got to take advantage of it right then and there. How can you apply this to everything? In different situations, you can apply this to at work. You can apply it to a business opportunity. You can apply it to meeting the right mate. You can apply it to whatever you want. It's our delay in action that causes our problem. When there's a call and there's a need for an immediate response to get us to shuv and to turn back to Yah, what's happening is a lot of people are putting off what they can do today for tomorrow. And that's what you call not prognostication. I was going to say prognosticating. That's called procrastinating. So Yah is saying, don't be a procrastinator. Respond immediately. Okay, so you can see that right here. You can see if your brother's not close by and you don't know who he is, he's still your brother, right? And it's this idea around what you would call custody. Okay? Or you're going to be a custodian over whatever is your brother's. So Yah has built inside of the Mishpatim and the Torah that you and I are custodians and put things that don't belong to us in custody as a protective mechanism for that which belongs to our brother. Because remember, earlier in Genesis chapter number 4, there was a guy named Cain that killed his brother and said, what? What did he say? Am I my what?
Brother's keeper.
Am I my brother's keeper? Am I his custodian? Am I in charge of him? Am I responsible for him? You ain't responsible for him, but you're responsible for what belongs to him. You see? And in that case, it could be his life. You see? This is talking about that which a man can make he makes a living off his ox or his sheep. I said, yeah, well, why an ox? Because it's the greatest. Why his sheep? Because it's the least of what he owns. He said it could be either the greatest of what he has or the least of what he has. It could be his clothes. It could be anything. I need you to be a custodian over what belongs to your brother. You understand? That's your brother. You see? You are to do the same with his donkey, with his coat, or anything else that belongs to your brother that he loses. If you find something lost, you must not ignore it. You can't plead ignorance. I didn't know. Okay. So ignorance means to ignore. All you got to do is here's the ignore, and then you put the A and the N and the C and the E, ignorance. That means that you ignore it. So you say, I had total ignorance. No, you didn't. You just ignored it. So Yah is telling us that I don't want you to be ignorant by ignoring something. Okay. Don't be ignorant. I remember my mom used to say, I can't say what she said to me. She used to call me an ignorant what? Don't act like an ignorant. Okay. If you see your brother's donkey and it's collapsed on the road, don't behave as you didn't see it. There you go again. He uses the same word, olam. Don't try to put it in the past and block it out your mind and put something in the future. Well, I'll get to it later. It ain't a big deal. I'll come back. I'm on my way to go handle something right now. Y'all saying I wasn't thinking about that. When you had a need, I was right there. When you called out to me, I showed up. So I need you to treat my people like, in your brother, more specifically, like I treated you. Does this make sense to everybody? Okay.
Yes.
No transgender. Verse 5, no transgender. Anybody that's wearing men's clothing, okay, or any man that's wearing something that belongs to woman, that's transgender. Yah says that's detestable to him. It's detestable. Yah hates it and it's disgusting. Okay, that's verse number 5. He said, if you're walking along, this is what got me. If you're walking along and you happen to see, again, with your eyes, because remember, this is talking about what you see. You saw a woman, you know what I'm saying? Did you know, saw her shape? You saw your brother's ox, you saw his sheep, you saw this, you saw that. Okay, so it's going back to what you see, which goes back to what you think, which goes back to how you respond. So when Yah gave us these eyes, he gave us the responsibility. Okay. Now, if you were blind, this wouldn't apply to you because you can't see anything. Okay. But he said, if you see something, that's deep what I just said. It just hit me. If you're blind, Yah says that I'm not holding you responsible because you don't see. Anybody that got eyes that open, he's saying I'm gonna hold you responsible. You can't plead ignorance because I gave you eyes. So you can make judgments. Okay. So the judgment that I want you to make is, you may not understand this, but I want you to see, if you see a bird's nest, right? It's either in the tree or on the ground, and you want to, or with the chicks or the eggs, it could be the chickens, or right, the little chicks are in there, or the eggs, and the mother bird is sitting on the chicks or on the eggs because she's there to protect it. You're not to take the mother with the chicks. You're supposed to let the mother go. Somebody tell me why Yah says let the mother go.
I guess so she can make more chicks.
She can have more chicks, but what is that an act of, what kind of act is that?
Compassion.
Reproduction.
Act of compassion.
Mm.
It's an act of compassion. It's an act of compassion. Again, I told you, Yah's going to show us his compassion. He's not telling this so just, because they got an appetite and they want to eat some chicks or some birds. Yah's saying that I'm showing compassion. I need you to show compassion. When you got that slave girl, you need to show her some compassion. If you don't want to be with her, don't bind her up. Show some compassion. If you with a woman and she had a son for you and he's your strength, and you hate her because of her foolishness and how she acts, guess what? I need you to still show some compassion to even the son that you have because he's the firstborn. In the firstborn status is compassion. I need you to hear what he's saying. When I went to go get you out of Mizraim, I killed all the firstborn. That's why I number, and being the firstborn is called Bakar. Okay. And let me just spend just one moment with Bakar so you can understand something. B-A-C-H-A-R, Bakar. Okay. And if it's Bikur, it means the first fruits. Okay. Like Bikurim. Okay. So Bakar means first. Okay. And a Bakor is a young man. Okay. A young man. So a Bakar is the firstborn. A Bikirim is the first fruit. When Yah went to go get us out of Mizraim, he killed all the Bakar. And he considers us to be a Bakarim. Okay. So any young man that's coming up, Yah says whoever's first is the strength. So God kills the firstborn of Mizraim to get rid of their strength. He destroys them to get rid of their strength, because that's the strength of a person. That's the strength of a man, is his firstborn. So Yah is saying, I need you to show compassion. Because I did. I showed compassion to you through the idea of the firstborn. If you deny your son the ability to be a firstborn and you take that away from him, you're not showing any compassion. You're not showing any compassion to the firstborn. And that's against what I did for you. So I don't need you to do that. Okay. So this idea, and Bakar, by the way, has to do with this idea of examination. Okay. So when I talk about examination, praise be to the living Elohim, when he talks about examination, he's talking about a choice, okay, or to choose by making a choice. So Yah has made a choice by choosing the firstborn. He didn't choose the secondborn or the third or the fourth or the fifth or the sixth. He's only chosen the firstborn. And that was simply because Yah has made a determination by examination. Yah has determined that the firstborn is what he wanted. Yah has determined I want the first fruit out of the land. That's by his determination after close examination. So when he asks us to bring him the first of the flock, it's because Yah has made an examination and is determined based off of this examination that this choice is what I want. And anytime anybody goes against that, they're going against what he said. And he said, don't do that. Okay. So I want you to show compassion to your son, of the woman that you can't stand, because she doesn't want to follow your leadership. Okay. So here's the bottom line. Show some compassion. Here, I need you to show compassion to this bird. Now, look, this is crazy, or I would say interesting, not crazy. Yeah, forgive me. He says, if you do this, okay, so that things will go well with you and you will prolong your life. So are you telling me if you don't let the mother go, then now you just probably cut off part of your life and things will go not good. Well means tov. Things won't function well for you. Now they're going to go ra. It's either tov or it's ra. Either it's evil and dysfunctional. You understand? So that's what Yah is saying. So in this idea of dysfunctional, he's saying your behavior, if you take the mother and you don't show any compassion, you're being dysfunctional. If you're not showing any kindness, you're being dysfunctional. That's what he's letting us know. And if you're dysfunctional, that means that you're evil. And if you're evil, according to me, you're ra, and you're bad, and you will bring misery. And misery loves what? Company. You see? So if you want things to go well with you, you're going to have to. And so you say, well, I've never seen a nest and eggs, and I don't take the eggs. You better understand what he's saying. Okay. That you better understand that things will go well with you and you will prolong your life if you would do this, if you let the mother go, if you would show some compassion. You don't, you're done. Okay. Verse number 8, you build a house, you don't do what's right. Somebody falls off your roof, you're responsible for their death, consequences. So you need to be proactive in helping and guarding. That's about guarding life, because this is what Yah cares about. Here, you'll prolong your life if you guard life. If you guard life, you get to keep your life. And I've given you the rulings to guard your life. So if you look at Yah's Torah and you look at the Mishpatim and the Kukim and all the different things that Yah has spoken to us, is to give us life. This is what Moshe is talking about. This is your life. This is the purpose of your life. You got to protect your life. And you protect your life by shamar, by guarding what Yah said. You guard what he says, you're guarding your life. You guard what he says, things will go well with you. And you get to have longer days. You eat what he says, you get to live long. You don't, you die. Congestive heart failure, 66 years old. My mother died. Why am I smiling? Because it's the truth. Yah's not playing with us. You don't do what he says, guess what? You die. You're going to exile and you die, and you're going to pine away in the lands that you've been sent to. Why? Because you didn't want to follow what I said. So I'm going to need to show you. How does Yah feel about 2 different types of seeds? You can't plant it. If you do that, you're going to forfeit the whole harvest. How does he feel about you putting an ox and a donkey together? You can't do that. Why? They're not the same. So Yah's making a distinction between the ox and the donkey. And he's saying you can't mash the 2 up because one is stronger than the other. I need things to be alike. Okay. I'm interested in things of the same type of seed. I'm not interested in 2 different types of animals of labor to be joined together. You can't yoke it up. I'm not interested in you having 2 different types of clothing that's put together. You can't do that, because when you put 2 things together, and now let me be a little bit more clear about this. When you put 2 things together that are not meant to be together, what you do is you weaken. You weaken the seed. You weaken the fabric. You weaken the animal. You causing problems. You understand? So what it is now I need you to be accountable. I need you to be responsible. Just like he just told us. You asked, well, why did he mention the responsibility here for the dead? Because not only are you responsible for this life, but I need you to be responsible for understanding the way that things work about when I ask you to put things together. I don't want 2 different types of kinds together. Okay? I don't like that. I don't want 2 men with each other. I want 2 women with each other. Okay? I don't want that. Okay? I don't. You weaken. And if you weaken this, okay, is the results of putting a donkey and an ox together is what you will call 2 imbalance. Okay, so things are not going to be steady, and they're going to be, so you can see within this, the Yah says, hey, I'm looking for that which is going to be stable. I'm looking for consistency. So when you read the Torah, this is what you got to look for. You got to look for dysfunction. So these are things that are dysfunctional. And the reason why people do these things, somebody tell me, Dr. Yared, I know you want to tell me why they do this. Why do they do this?
They can't help themselves.
This is what they're thinking. This is what they're thinking. Do you understand? This comes from thought life. That's what he's saying. Well, you and I would say stinking thinking. This is the type of thought process that somebody who would put an oxen and donkey together just ain't thinking. They're going to do it their way. And he's telling us, look, I don't need you to just look at the ox and donkey. Those are just the examples that I'm giving to you. I got to give you something to look at. Okay. I told you when I bring your land, this is the training ground. So ultimately what I'm looking for is I'm looking for consistency. I'm looking for you to follow what I say. I'm looking for you to use common sense because I'm an Elohim that's about balance and I'm about fairness and I'm about justice and I'm about freedom. Those are the things that I'm about. Okay. Here it is. Okay. We have just 15 minutes left. So let me get going. Again, 13. I missed 12, but 12 talks about the twisted cords for the four corners around to wrap around yourself, which is a reminder. This is what Yah says, I need you to do this, right? Just like your tzitzit. If a man marries a woman and has sexual relations, again, going back and confirming his words about sexual relation. Sexual relation means marriage. And he comes to dislike this woman, right? And he brings false charges against her saying that she wasn't a virgin when I found her, when she came to me. Guess what? The parents have to bring forth a rag, a cloth with blood on it to prove that she was a virgin. So they're literally they have to hold in their custody, okay, evidence. Look at Yah, look at the judgment, look at the court scene. Yah is saying he brings some charges, okay? And he's bringing these charges to the elders. And he said, look, when I had intercourse with this woman, I didn't find any evidence that she was a virgin. So the father and the mother are going to go ahead. They go retrieve the evidence. They're going to bring it to the city gate because that's where everything goes down in this city. The girl's father would say to the leaders, not the mother, you know, I'm just being honest. Our people need to understand who the leader is in the home. Okay. The husband is the leader. Yes, the mother and the father brought the son to the leaders. But here she knows that she's not there to protect her daughter's dignity. It's the father's job to protect the dignity of his daughter. Period. Okay. And he's the one who's going to be speaking on behalf of his daughter because he's the one who gave authorization for the daughter to even be married to this man. Listen what he says. The girl's father would say to leaders, I let my daughter marry this man, not me and my wife. They're one. They're one. But he hates her. So he's brought these false charges, right? And that he didn't find evidence of her virginity. So here's the evidence, and he gives the evidence. You can't just bring these accusations without evidence. So he brings it in the land, and he lays the cloth before the leaders. The leaders of the town are to take the man and punish him. In this case, they don't define whether it's with strokes, whoop, whatever, but he gets punished. There's punishment for a person who does this, and he is going to be fined 2.5 pounds of silver. Okay, that's what he's getting. He's getting 2.5 pounds of silver. That's what he got to pay, and he's punished. And also, too, here's the other part of the punishment. He can never divorce his wife as long as he lives. So now you can see where Yah says, if he got a man that hates his wife, he'll end up getting another wife and he'll love her. But guess what? Since if he's with his first wife and she has a son with him, Yah's saying, I got to protect because I know how men are. See, I put it on one side. It said that the woman is the one who's making him angry, right? Check this out. Men will use an excuse to get rid of a woman real easy. And y'all saying you can't do that to a daughter of Zion. You can't get rid of her like you think. You can't. You can't violate any daughter of Zion, period. Because they're Yah's daughters. So I know how you men think. So, I want you to give evidence and I'm going to punish you. And then you'll never be able to divorce her. So you can go marry another woman with the firstborn right, still go to her son. See? And you'll never be able to get rid of her. So now you're going to have her for the rest of your life. It's up to you. You understand? So there's two ways, it's two sides to that coin. But if the charge is substantiated and the evidence of the girl's virginity cannot be found because her parents were irresponsible, you let your daughter have sex with a man and you didn't say nothing about it. You knew she had sex, but you didn't say nothing. You hid it. See, I'm going to find out what's going on in the home. See, they know. Listen, let's read. Then they are to lead the girl, because they can't find the evidence, to the door of the father's house, of his house. And the men of the city will stone her to death because she has committed in Israel the disgraceful act of being a prostitute while still in her father's house. In this way, you will put an end to such wickedness among you. Again, Bakir Paka, that which is in the midst of you. Now let's chop this down, because this is important. You can see that if they didn't bring the cloth. If the parents didn't have the cloth, it can only mean one thing. It can only mean one thing. It only means that they knew that she was sexually active out there with other men and never said anything. You see? That's all it is. Because the evidence of that is that which they're supposed to have in their custody. You see? And the one who's supposed to provide that evidence was the man that she just slept with. So if you don't have the evidence, so he said if it can't be found, why can't it be found if the parents had it? Heaven forbid that they would lose the evidence and their daughter dies because they didn't hold in custody the evidence. That's another possibility. See? So it's important to hold that evidence to be able to prove. So what can you and I learn from this? Several things, okay? I have daughters, right? I asked my daughter the other day, are you sexually active with the person you're dating? She said no. I said, good, because you would have been put to death. Not here, but Yah will put you to death and you won't be entering the land. Okay, she's 22 years old. Have you done that? No? Good, otherwise you'll die. Right? She plays the harlot. She has sex with this kid. Boom. I don't have any evidence. That don't work out. She goes to another man in Israel. She's trying to act like, everything's good. It's not good. You're dying. That's what Yah said. That's not Dawid. That's what Yah said. Okay. So you can see that Yah is telling us, and we can learn from this, that you and I need evidence. Hear what I'm saying. You need evidence to prove any case that you bring. When Yah judges you and I, there will be evidence against us. Either evidence for you or evidence against you. Okay. Some of the evidence that will be for you is that you did what he said and keeping the Torah. What would also be evident is what he knows that's inside of your body. Like, oh, I know you've eaten pork or you didn't eat it. I also know that you had a relationship with me. I have a record book, that the book of life, where I wrote down your righteous acts. Also in the book of Malachi. I have it all written and I know what you do. I have everything recorded. So there will be evidence when I bring charges against you. Okay. If you use my name in a way that you didn't supposed to, there will be evidence to show that fact. And guess what? I have witnesses, and the witnesses that I have are stronger than any other witnesses that you can ever have. The two witnesses that I have are the Shamayim, which are the heavens, and the earth. They're going to testify. They're going to testify to what you've done. I got it all recorded. Okay. So that's what you and I need to learn from this. I don't have time to continue to go through all this, but as you've read, you can see in this chapter, it's a lot about sexuality. Everything about, a man, finding a woman, and it's about rape. Rape is in here, chapter number 22. It's right here. If you had sex with a woman and she wasn't engaged, you got to marry her. Let me see. What was I think it was 1 1/4 pounds to kind of go in line with what we talked about. Oh, here it is. Right here. If a man had intercourse with her, this girl that was a virgin, who's not engaged, and he grabs her and he has sexual relation with her, and they're caught. Oh, I got to bring this out. This is a good way to end it. And they're caught in the act. Not that you didn't find out. They're caught. Because remember, I just mentioned that if she has sex and she didn't say anything, that's another possibility that they had sex and they never got caught. So she was playing a dumb role and then bring her out to that father's house and stone her to death because she was playing a prostitute. Maybe her parents did know, or maybe they didn't know. Okay. So Yah is telling you that there's a way you can find this out. Okay. So if they're caught in the act, okay, and this is what you would call, and she didn't cry out. She didn't cry out. She liked it. So she didn't cry out, and she liked it, and she was being humbled. Listen to this. She's being humbled. And they would call that in our day rape. Okay. Instead, here people will go to jail for this. Okay. Here it says that this man is supposed to pay 1 1/4 pound of silver shekels. Up where we read before, it was 2.5. So 1 1/4 plus 1 1/4 is 2.5 total. So a man that brought an accusation against his wife has to pay double of what a person who just had intercourse with a virgin. You see, so he's paying 1 1/4. Number one, for what for having sex with her. Secondly, another 1 1/4 which brings it to 2.5 for the accusation. You see, here it's 1 1/4 if he just has sexual relations with her. Okay. And he also has the same destiny, which is once you took that from that young woman, okay, she's a daughter of Zion, you go pay that 1 1/4 pounds of silver, and she will become his wife because he had intercourse with her. And then after that, because he humbled her, he humiliated her, overpowered her, he may not divorce her as long as he lives. So there's rules. There's rules to sexual behavior. Okay. There's rules. And Yah knows that this is what's going to happen. Okay. And then he ends it by saying a man is not to take his father's wife, thus violating his father's mishpatim, his father's rights. So all this in closing that we were able to read tonight has to do with the way that we can change our mind, the way that we behave, and the way that we act. It would be to a man's advantage because he is a man. The men have to understand this, that is what they think is how they are going to respond. Okay. And the urges of his body would cause him to do certain things that can either cause, but either way, no matter what his urges are, they can either get him killed, and either way, he's going to have to pay a cost. There's a cost. So you don't get it for free. You don't get the woman for free. There's a cost. If you didn't pay the cost, the bride's price for this woman, you did this to her, you violated her, and you got to pay a price for that violation. I believe in another text that goes a little bit deeper that talks about the father. Sometimes if you did this and you did have sex with his daughter and he wouldn't just take it, right? I'm going to confirm that the father would determine whether or not he wanted you to be with his daughter, because he could take the penalty, he could take the fine, but he would be the one ultimately to determine whether or not he wanted you to be with his daughter. And that could very well be because the kind of family you come from and the mindset that you have and how you did it it's atrocious. What young men do to young girls, it's atrocious, especially in the age that we live in right now. Is terrible. So many men's daughters are being violated and they feel like they don't have to pay any costs. You see, and some of them are being killed, because I've seen some stuff about fathers killing these boyfriends. But the fact of the matter is that the daughter belongs to the father, just like the wife and everything else in that house belongs to the father, you see? And so the violation of that man there's a cost and there's a penalty. It's not just, well, you don't get to divorce her, but there's actually a monetary cost, a penalty for that. So you can see Yah's judgment, and you can see how how he's operating as long, and as you continue to read your Torah portion, is going to get into kidnapping and stuff like that. But the thing that we're going to, the direction that we're going to go into is to continue on this path to talk about how you and I are thinking. So he put a lot of emphasis on sexual conduct, and also too, the young woman, if you read in here, she was in the city, and she didn't respond, and she didn't cry out for help because she just didn't follow what the Most High said, and her parents didn't raise her in a way that she understood the Torah. This is important for us to teach our children the Torah, because if the young girl, she's engaged to a man, and some man has sexual relationship with her, then she didn't cry out. You're supposed to put both of them to death. Why? You're supposed to put out because she didn't cry. She didn't cry out for help. She has a responsibility too. So you can see that too. So in our Torah portion, you can see, and here's the deal. The word is yatsa, right? So when you yatsa, when you go out, or you come in, or you go out, you got to be careful. When you go out to war, you got to be careful. When you go out to the city, you got to be careful. When these girls are going out to the city and stuff like that, they had to be careful. They could easily been raped, easily been taken and raped, just like what happened to Yaakov's daughter. What happened to her? She went to a party and she ended up getting raped. Her name was Dinah, meaning that Yah is her judge. And guess what? A lot of people got killed. Shechem got killed, him and everybody. And that whole town got wiped out by two brothers, Lewi and his brother Shimon. They went in there and they killed everybody. These two right here of Israel killed that whole entire city. Over 800 men got killed because they raped Yaakov's daughter. And they were justified in saying, ain't no way you're going to rape a daughter of Zion, a daughter of Israel, and think you'll get away with it. In context, you and I, Yah calls us his daughter. That's one of the names. He calls us a daughter of Zion, his people. And you and I have been raped by the nations. And guess what? There's a penalty, right? But Yah is not talking about a penalty for like here, because these are your people. The nations are not going to get this. You're going to pay a fine. They're not going to get it. They're going to get what Shechem got. They're going to get what Levi and them gave to them. They're getting death. Okay? That's how it's going to happen, right? So that's your Torah tonight. That's the study, personal responsibility, awareness, mindset. On Shabbat, you and I are going to talk a little bit more about this thinking that we have and what can happen with this thought life, and what we read about these urges and stuff like that. There's something that's deep within us that you and I don't even know about, that the Most High is going to share with us on this Shabbat. So you and I can come to understand why we need to change our mindset and what we're thinking. It's very important, because it can literally cost you your life. Okay.